Fear doesn't vanish overnight. It fades one small step at a time. In this powerful and introspective video, a wise man shares deep life lessons about facing fear and unlocking the courage to pursue your biggest dreams. Through heartfelt stories, calming reflections, and timeless wisdom, discover how the smallest actions can lead to life's greatest breakthroughs. If this video speaks to your soul, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more weekly wisdom. Share this message with someone who needs a little courage today. There's a quiet voice inside all of us, a whisper that says, "What if I'm not ready? What if I fail?" Fear, subtle, persistent, and powerful, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply suggests, stay where it's safe. But let me tell you something I've learned in the stillness of life. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is an invitation to grow. And sometimes all it takes to conquer it is a single small step. You know, when I was a younger man, I had big dreams that would light my chest on fire, but I also had doubts. I feared rejection. I feared disappointment. I even feared success because success meant responsibility. We often think fear comes from weakness, but in truth, fear arises when the dream is too important. You fear because you care, and that's a powerful thing. It means you're alive. It means your soul is reaching for something bigger. But here's what I missed for many years. Fear grows in silence, in stillness, in waiting. The longer you avoid it, the larger it becomes. But when you face it, even gently, it starts to shrink. Let me share a story with you. There was a man I once knew who wanted to become a writer, but he was terrified of the blank page. Every time he sat down, he froze. So I asked him, "Can you write just one sentence today? Not a chapter, just a line." He laughed. "That's too easy." But you know what? He wrote that sentence. The next day he wrote two. A month later, he had his first short story. A year later, his first book. That's the magic of small steps. Fear loses its grip when you act, no matter how tiny the action. You don't need to climb the mountain today. You just need to take the next step. In my own life, the greatest victories never came all at once. They were built piece by piece, day by day. When I first stood in front of a crowd to speak, my hands trembled. My voice cracked. But I kept showing up. Once a week, then twice. Now I speak to thousands. But that courage didn't come from one grand act. It came from choosing, over and over, not to run. Fear is like a shadow. It seems large when you're far from the light. But when you step toward it, it disappears behind you. Ask yourself this: what is one small action I can take today despite my fear? Maybe it's making the call. Maybe it's submitting the application. Maybe it's just admitting to yourself that you're afraid. That's not weakness. That's awareness. And awareness is the first light that cracks through fear's darkness. Because you see, courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Each time you take a step, your confidence grows. And before you know it, those small steps become a path leading straight to your dreams. My friend, don't wait for the fear to leave. It rarely does. Instead, bring it with you. Take it by the hand and walk forward anyway. You don't have to leap today. You just have to move. Because one day you'll look back at the very thing that once scared you, and you'll smile because it was the first chapter in the story of your courage. Pauses gently. If today's message reached your heart, take a moment. Write one fear down, then take one step toward it. Small steps, big dreams. It starts now. Fear, it doesn't knock loudly. It shows up quietly when you're about to try something new, when you think about that dream that's been living quietly inside you for years. You don't need to be fearless to chase your dreams. You just need to be brave enough to take the first step. Today, I want to share with you how small steps can lead to big dreams, and how fear, when understood, can become your greatest teacher. Fear isn't always a lion roaring in the wild. Sometimes it hides in your everyday moments. That hesitation to speak up in a meeting, the excuse you make for not starting that project, the way you scroll for hours to avoid that one hard thing you know you need to do. I once had a student who wanted to start a nonprofit. She had the vision, the passion, but every time she sat down to plan, she'd convince herself she wasn't ready. Too young, not smart enough, not connected enough. She was afraid to fail. But more than that, she was afraid to be seen trying. Because trying means you care. And when you care, failure hurts more. But what's more painful than failing? Never beginning at all. The first step is always the hardest because it forces you to leave the comfort of your known world. But think of this. When a baby takes their first step, we don't say, that's not enough. We celebrate. We cheer. Why? Because one step means momentum has begun. What if you treated yourself with that same compassion? If fear is the mountain, then small steps are your walking stick. You might not see the summit today, but each step builds the strength you'll need to reach it. Let me share a story from my own journey. There was a time when I was afraid to speak, to really speak. Not just words, but to tell the truth I carried in my heart. I was invited to speak at a retreat, and I nearly turned it down. I kept thinking, what do I have to offer? I feared being judged, misunderstood, forgotten. But my mentor said something that stayed with me. He said, if your story helps just one person take one brave step, it's worth it. So I went. I stood up. My voice shook, but I spoke anyway. Afterward, a young man came up to me with tears in his eyes and said, that was exactly what I needed to hear. That's when I learned, fear doesn't vanish, but courage arrives when you move anyway. And sometimes your step forward becomes someone else's inspiration. Let's bring this into your life. What dream have you placed on a high shelf, telling yourself someday? What is the smallest action you can take today? Want to write a book? Write 100 words. Want to start a business? Research for 10 minutes. Want to heal a relationship? Send the message. Don't wait for confidence to arrive. Confidence is built through action. One step at a time. And when fear whispers, what if it doesn't work? Answer it gently. What if it does? Here's something I learned late in life. Fear often points toward what matters most. The dream you fear is the one you most deeply desire. The conversation you're scared to have is the one that could set you free. The step you avoid is often the one that leads to your growth. So rather than running from fear, use it as a compass. Every small action you take while afraid makes you stronger than the fear itself. And over time you realize, you didn't need to be fearless to do great things. You just needed to move forward anyway. I'll leave you with this. Every mountain you've ever seen was climbed one step at a time. Every hero you admire was once uncertain. Every dream that changed the world started with a moment of fear and a moment of courage. So if you're afraid, good. That means something is waking up in you. Now, take one step, not tomorrow, not next year, today, because the life you want is not waiting for perfection. It's waiting for your movement. If this message touched something in you today, I invite you to share it with a friend, with your heart, with the world. Hit the like button. Leave a comment below. Tell me, what small step are you going to take today? And subscribe if you'd like to walk this path of growth with me, week after week. Remember, you don't need to see the whole road. You just need to take the next step.